How's it going? It's Charles Botensten from Botensten Properties International. And today we're going to be talking about something that is maybe going to be a little controversial. Maybe something that a lot of people are not going to want to hear. But it's 100% true. We're in an age where digital, online, internet is the way to be. That's what we're doing. That's how we conduct business. That's how we have products and services move. It's what we're doing right now. So I'm going to make a bold statement, is that 99.5% of all buyers come online. And I know a lot of people say, oh, well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, and why is this important? This is important when you're pitching an owner and you say, well, we have the best marketing in the country. Listen, that's great. But the actual buyers who are looking for your apartment, if they're outside the United States or outside New York City, have an agent in New York City. If they're in Hong Kong, if they're in Shanghai, if they're in Tokyo, if they're anywhere. Literally, I just named only Asian countries. Bogota, Buenos Aires, Mexico City. It doesn't matter where they are. They all have an agent here in New York City. So when someone says to me, an owner says, well, you're Botensten Properties International and you have international there. The reason I have international is because I have a lot of clients from overseas. And when I represent them, they're overseas, I'm here in New York City. So when a property comes on the market, I'm the first one to see it. Then I send it to them. Then I preview it. Then I send them a video, and then they say yes or no. That's how it works. So why is that important, and what does that have to do with the internet? It has to do with the internet because people say, we're in this publication, we're on print, we put together a quarterly book that goes out to buyers and sellers or all these households. I look at it and I say, I laugh, because if you truly boil down how buyers find out about your property, if they're overseas, they're like, well, you're not really international. Remax, Douglas Elliman, all these other big firms are international, and they are. And I can't compete with them when it comes down to, and I'm not just saying me, I'm just saying an agent in general. I thought I saw something outside the windows. Kind of funny. Obviously, that's why I laughed. The way that I look at it is, or the way that business is done is that you have someone that's in an international city, Rome, UK, wherever. UK is not a city. London. So they're over there. They have an agent here in New York City looking on their behalf. They're not over there looking on StreetEasy or Trulia or Zillow or New York Times. And what's funny is I named all online publications. I didn't say print or anything else like that. They have an agent here in New York City. So the reason I say that is because everything is equalized now. The platform is equalized. 20 years ago, I couldn't say I'm in the New York Times. I couldn't say that I was New York Times print. I couldn't say all these things. But now, because almost 100% of all the buyers come because I post it in two places, which is publicly to 38 million people and every broker in New York City, then you have any buyer that wants to buy in that price range seeing it. So the brokers who represent buyers here in New York City and buyers internationally will see it. And the public who's actually not working with a buyer, or buyers who are not working with a buyer's agent, will be able to see it because everyone in New York City uses StreetEasy. So when an agent, and this is really for sellers, when an agent says, we do this, we have storefront and we have these listings on the side of our building, a buyer does not come through that way. A buyer comes because it's a waste of their time. Why not why walk to a real estate office and potentially see listings? Those are people that have already bought or are interested in buying, but that listing is for a $5.5 million townhouse when they're interested in a $750,000 studio or one bedroom. You know, what are the chances of what they are looking for in the area they're looking for that they can afford is on the outside of a building? And not the outside of a building, the outside of a storefront office. You know, I chose not to have a storefront office because I noticed that it's not, it's very expensive for the reward. It's the people walking past aren't really coming in and saying, like I worked at storefront offices. Buyers don't come in. I worked there for 2.5 years. I never had I don't think I've ever had an actual buyer or seller walk in and was serious. So the people that actually look at it are interested, but they're not in the moment right now. The buyers and sellers, or the buyers, I should say, the buyers that are very interested are online. They go on StreetEasy, they set up an email alert. You know why? Because it's convenient and it's easy and it wastes no time. Why waste your time going through New York Times magazine or publications that someone puts out? They're like, you know, say they put it in a magazine. What are the chances that that exact property is going to be bought by a buyer who's rolling through that magazine? You know, it's one out of probably one out of this whole year of transactions. Everyone comes through a broker who gets updates when a new property comes online, and that broker represents people in New York City, and that broker represents people out of New York City. Why do I bring up the people outside of New York City? Because a lot of sellers are like, wow, you know what, Charles? This person said they could put a publication in an international magazine. Yeah, you know what? That's great, but that buyer who's international has an agent in New York City. Because think about it. Say you're looking to buy a place in London or Berlin or Paris, and you're not going to be going on the local Paris MLS or the London MLS or Berlin's MLS and being like, oh, this actually looks like a good place or whatever. Imagine one of them coming and looking at StreetEasy and getting these updates and saying, oh, okay, that's part of Manhattan or whatever. They don't know. I would hire an agent in Paris. I would hire an agent in London, Berlin, Tokyo, Hong Kong, Shanghai, wherever. Hire someone there to represent me. Just think about it, because you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't trust that the decision you're making is the right one because you're not from there. You don't know any of the stipulations. Like here in New York City, you don't know if there's a building going on, there's a tax abatement, if there's a I don't know, like vermin or a litigation or something like that. You don't know that if you're international, so you have an agent here. So don't worry about the international publication, and this is for the sellers. Don't worry about the international publications that brokers say that they put it in, because everyone comes from online. And I mean every buyer comes from StreetEasy if they live in New York City and they're representing themselves, or if it's a broker, they're on the internal system, and that's either RealPlus, OLR, their own little networking one, which is Jaguar and Home, and there's other internal systems that brokers use that have a huge amount of information that's not public. So it either comes from a broker, which, by the way, is online and it gets sent through the system, and the other is StreetEasy. Those are the only ways. Trulia, Zillow, they're not reputable websites. They have listings that look like they're still live when they're not. Zillow, same thing. They're not reputable. So when someone emails me and they say, oh, what about this? I'm like, this closed. I literally had someone email me a listing. It closed 3 years ago, and it still shows that it's active on Trulia. Was it on Trulia? I think it was on Trulia. And I'm like, no. If you're looking for a listing, my expertise is not finding you the listing. Yes, if there's if I know about something that's coming on the market, I can let you know. But my expertise is outside of that. So the reason I bring this up is to give the seller, us seller, the knowledge that look at who the agent is when you're interviewing them, because every single buyer comes from Street Easy or a broker, and the brokers find out about every single listing. So when someone tries to woo you with their storefront office, which never works, their publication that they put out yearly, or their listings in-house, buyers don't come from that method. Just think about it. Say you're a buyer walking down the street. Are you really, out of the 20 properties that are right there, different areas, different price ranges, different sizes, different views, to save you time, you put in exactly what you want into Street Easy, or you tell your broker, this is exactly what I want, and then you go find it. So listen, I'm Charles Botensten from Botensten Properties International. This is really just to help sellers, not to get sidetracked by what the agent is saying during the listing pitch, but to actually find out who that person is, because that's the most important thing, is that you're getting into a relationship with this broker for an extended period of time. You want to ensure that you trust them and not their marketing. And this obviously has to do with the marketing. Their marketing, it doesn't matter. Yes, bigger firms have better marketing than me, and bigger firms have better marketing than other bigger firms, but it all comes down to one person, the agent. And that's why I started my own company, because the marketing is the same. So when you're interviewing brokers, and this is obviously for sellers and maybe buyers, is that look at who the person is. Look at their aggressiveness to ensure that the deal closes. Look at their willingness to ensure the deal closes. In other words, they have creative ways to, okay, how about the seller gets this, the buyer gets that? I've been in some really creative deals since leaving a big firm because I'm the manager. And I say, listen, I'll give, this, and we'll push the closing date back, but the buyer wants the chandelier, and it's things that I don't need. Like, it's hard to explain, but in other words, it's all. I don't even know where I was going with that. I had so many different deals in my head just going through my mind. I'm like, well, I could bring up this example, then that example. Listen, I understand everyone's on a time crunch. We're already on 12 minutes, but marketing is equalized because of the internet. Don't believe the hype. Go in there, choose the best agent, because that's the person that's going to be representing you and your home, and that's who you're going to be trusting for advice to ensure that the deal closes, that they'll be there for the open houses, that they'll be there for all the showings, for the tough times, for the good times, obviously, talking to the attorneys and the bankers, and if there's an appraisal, if there's contractors, there's architects, the board, everyone. So marketing is all the same. I'm Charles Botensten for Botensten Properties International. If you have any questions, leave comments. Obviously, subscribe to the videos. I put up a new video every single weekday. I love what I do. And subscribe to our Instagram channel. That is our favorite, by far, social media network outside of YouTube, obviously. And if you have any questions, as mentioned, subscribe or just go to our website. It's all in the description. Hope you have a great day. And I shall talk to you guys later.